the last one left. The 23rd impact hits the hull at 0347 station time, and this one is different. Not the dull, metered thud of the previous 22, spaced exactly 11 seconds apart like a heartbeat or a countdown, but a sharp, lateral shriek of metal being tested at its tolerance point. A sound that travels through the superstructure of orbital station Kepler-9 and arrives in Commander Elias Brandt's molars before his ears can process it. He is alone. He has been alone for 6 days, since the last rotation shuttle carried the remaining crew down to Bay of Tranquility Station on the lunar surface, leaving him aboard to oversee final decommissioning protocols. 47 hours of system shutdowns, data backups, and atmospheric cycling. A bureaucratic death for a station that has orbited Earth for 31 years. His transport arrives at 0600 hours tomorrow. 14 hours. The impacts began at 0250. He assumed debris, a fragment of old satellite, a micrometeorite cluster, something the tracking grid missed. The first few were almost gentle, probing, testing the hull the way a man tests ice before stepping onto a frozen lake. But they have grown. Each successive strike carries more force, more intent, and the interval between them has shortened from 11 seconds to 9 to 7, and now they come in clusters of 3 and 4, moving along the hull in a pattern that is not random. It is systematic. Something is examining the station from the outside, learning its geometry, mapping the seams. Impact 24. 25. He feels them in the floor through his boots. Brandt pulls up the external camera feeds on the command module's central display. Kepler-9 carries 48 exterior cameras, mounted at irregular intervals across the station's modular frame. A lattice of cylindrical habitation units, solar arrays, and docking bays that stretches nearly 400 meters end to end. The cameras show what they always show: the slow rotation of the Earth below, blue and white, indifferent. The black of space above, the solar arrays catching sunlight and bright geometric planes. Nothing on the hull, nothing near the hull. The cameras show empty space in every direction, and the impacts continue. He cycles through the feeds. Module A, clear. Module B, clear. The central truss, the docking ring, the communications array, all clear. The cameras returning clean images of vacuum and starlight and nothing else. Impact 30, 31, closer now. The sound is migrating toward the command module, toward the center of the station, toward him, and the metal groans in registers he has never heard in 3 decades of orbital engineering. Deep, structural sounds, the sounds of load-bearing alloys being stressed beyond their rated capacity. He switches to camera 27. This one is mounted on the ventral surface of Module D, aimed outward and down, and for a moment it shows the same nothing. Black space, the curve of the Earth's terminator line, the faint scatter of stars. Then, something moves across the frame. It is fast, a blur of motion that the camera's frame rate cannot resolve. A dark shape transiting the field of view in less than a second, and Brandt's finger is already on the replay key, scrubbing backward, slowing the playback to quarter speed, and the shape resolves. A tail. It crosses the frame from left to right, curved slightly, tapered, segmented, the segments visible as faint ridges in the surface, like the scutes of a reptile magnified to an impossible scale. It is black, not the black of space, which is an absence, a void, the color of nothing. This is a different black, a black that is substance, that is depth, that seems to pull the ambient light toward it and swallow it whole. The stars behind it do not merely disappear, they dim as the tail approaches, their light bending, curving, drawn in, consumed. The tail moves through space the way a hole moves through fabric, a wrongness, an erasure, a place where the visual field ceases to function. He estimates the diameter of the tail from the camera's known field of view, 4 meters. The tail alone is 4 meters across. The impacts stop, all at once, between 1 second and the next. The rhythmic hammering ceases, and the silence that replaces it is worse, charged, expectant, the silence of something that has finished testing and is about to begin. Brandt activates the station's external floodlights, 8 high-intensity arrays designed for EVA operations, throwing cones of white light into the vacuum around the station. The light finds it. It is wrapped around Module F, coiled. The word comes to him involuntarily, the only word that fits. Coiled around the cylindrical habitat unit, the way a constricting serpent coils around its prey, and its body is vast. The coil alone encompasses the full 20-meter diameter of the module, and the body extends beyond the reach of the floodlights in both directions, disappearing into the dark, its full length unguessable. The surface is scaled, dense, interlocking plates of that impossible black, each one the size of a car door, and they shift and slide against each other as the creature adjusts its grip, producing the metallic sounds he has been hearing for an hour, the scrape of alien hide on aerospace aluminum. The head is not visible. The tail is not visible. Only the body, massive and endless, gripping his station in a coil that tightens as he watches. Module F's hull begins to deform. The aluminum skin buckles inward, the structural ribs visible as ridges in the crumpling metal, and the emergency decompression alarm triggers, a shrill, cycling tone that fills the command module, and the atmospheric readout for Module F drops from standard pressure to 0 in 11 seconds. The module collapses. It does not breach and decompress. It's crushed, compressed inward by a force that treats aerospace-grade alloy like paper, and the sound is enormous. A sustained, grinding roar of metal folding and tearing and compacting, and the station shudders, and the lights flicker, and through the viewport of the command module, Brandt sees a section of the solar array drift past, sheared clean from its mounting strut, tumbling end over end in the floodlight, glittering. The creature is taking the station apart, not destroying it, disassembling it. Each coil targets a different module, a different structural joint, and the precision is surgical. It finds the connection points, the seams, the places where one module bolts to the next, and it applies force there, separating the components with an efficiency that suggests understanding. It knows how the station is built. It has learned. Brandt is in his EVA suit before he is conscious of deciding to put it on. His hands move through the checklist on muscle memory, Life support activation, seal integrity, communications check, helmet lock. And he is moving through the command module toward the emergency airlock because the station is dying around him. The module's going dark, one by one, as the creature works its way inward, and his transport is 14 hours away, and he does not have 14 hours. He doesn't even have 14 minutes. He reaches the airlock. He cycles it. The outer door opens, and the void is there, black and cold and infinite. And in the void, illuminated by the falling floodlights of a station being reduced to scrap, the creature moves. He sees the head. It turns toward him as the airlock opens, turns from its work. From the module, it is currently peeling open the way a man peels fruit. The head is reptilian, elongated, the skull ridged with bony crests that sweep backward in parallel lines, the jaw heavy and underslung, the teeth visible even at this distance because they're not black like the body, but white. A white so pure it seems to generate its own light against the dark of the creature's hide. The eyes are set forward, predator's eyes, and they glow, a faint, deep red, the color of a star in its dying face, ancient light from an ancient source, and they fix on him with an attention that collapses the distance between them to nothing. It is looking at him the way he looked at the station schematics, with understanding, with intent. The coils release the station. The entire structure groans and begins to drift, modules separating along the breaks the creature's made, and Brandt floats free of the airlock as the command module tilts and spins and he is in open space, untethered, his suits maneuvering thrusters firing automatically to stabilize his orientation, and the creature uncoils. It is long, longer than the station, longer than anything he is referenced for, its body extending in both directions beyond the reach of the fading floodlights, black against black, visible only where its scales catch the light of the earth below or the distant sun, and it moves through vacuum with a fluid, sinuous grace that violates everything he knows about physics, about biology, about the cold, mechanical universe he has spent his life navigating. It turns toward him. The head swings in a slow arc, the red eyes tracking, the jaws opening slightly, not wide, just enough to show the depth of the mouth behind those white teeth, a depth that seems to exceed the physical dimensions of the skull, a throat that leads to a darkness deeper than the darkness around it. His thrusters fire, backward, away, the small jets of compressed gas pushing him from the wreckage at a speed that feels enormous in the silence of his suit, and is nothing, is meaningless against the scale of the thing that watches him. It does not chase, it reaches. One forelimb extends from the body. He had not seen limbs, had not known it had limbs, but it does, folded against the serpentine body, and the limb that unfolds is long and jointed and tipped with claws that curve inward, black as the body, each one longer than he is tall, and the claws open, and the reach is slow and patient and certain, and the gap between its grip and his body closes at a rate that his thrusters cannot overcome. The last thing Commander Elias Brandt sees is the earth reflected in the black surface of the claw that closes around his midsection. Blue and white and very small, a marble held up to a window The only light in a universe that has gone dark. The claw tightens. The red planet. Okonkwo is dead. Martinez is dead. Chen is dead. 3 of the 6 researchers who landed on Mars 41 days ago to establish the first permanent terraforming base are now bodies cooling in the red dust somewhere behind them. And Dr. Anya Korolev does not know exactly where, because they did not have time to retrieve them, because the thing that killed them was still there when they ran. She runs now. Her boots strike the Martian surface in long, bounding strides, the low gravity turning each step into a looping arc that covers 3 meters and takes too long. Every leap, a period of helpless drift in which she is visible, exposed, a dark shape against the oxidized landscape. Beside her, Okafor and Lindquist run the same way, their breathing loud in her helmet speakers, the sound of 3 pairs of lungs working against regulators that are delivering the last of their oxygen. 1 hour, 47 minutes. That is what her HUD tells her. 1 hour, 47 minutes of breathable air remaining in her suit's reserves. And the base is gone. Not destroyed, consumed. The prefabricated modules pulled apart and absorbed into the ground as if the planet itself opened its mouth and swallowed the structures that had been placed upon its surface. That is not a metaphor. She saw it happen. Standing on a ridge above the Meridiani Basin, she watched the base sink. The ground beneath the modules liquefied. Not melted, not collapsed, but changed state. The solid regolith becoming something fluid and dark and purposeful, and the modules descended into it the way stones descend into water, slowly, completely. And when the ground solidified again, there was nothing. No wreckage, no trace, just flat red dust where 6 people had built a life. Whatever did this is intelligence. This is the fact that Korolev cannot process, that her training did not prepare for her, that rewrites every assumption she has carried from Earth to this dead, cold, empty world that is not empty. The base was dismantled in a specific sequence. Communications first, the antenna array pulled under before anything else, severing their link to Earth with a precision that speaks of understanding, of strategy, of a mind that knows what communications are and why eliminating them matters. Then the power plant, then the habitation modules, then the greenhouse. And then the people, but not all at once, one at a time, separated from the group the way a predator separates prey from a herd. Okonkwo was taken while collecting soil samples 300 meters from the base. They heard her scream over the comms, a single burst of sound, high and raw, cut short. And when they reached the coordinates her suit beacon had transmitted, there was a hole in the ground, perfectly circular, 2 meters in diameter, descending vertically into the Martian crust to a depth their instruments could not measure. Martinez went into the hole after her. They told him not to. He went anyway, rappelling on a tether, and the tether went slack after 40 meters. And when they pulled it up, the end was not cut, it was dissolved. The fibers separated at the molecular level. The polymer chains broken apart with a specificity that required technology. Chen was taken from the surface, running. Something reached up through the ground beneath him, the regolith parting around it like water around the surfacing body, and pulled him under in less than a second. Korolev was 6 meters away. She saw his face through his visor in the instant before he disappeared. Surprise, not fear. He did not have time for fear. Now they run south toward the Erebus cliffs, because the cliffs are solid basalt and whatever moves through the regolith cannot move through rock. This is Korolev's hypothesis, untested, possibly wrong, but it's all she has. 1 hour, 31 minutes. There, Lindquist says. His voice is steady in a way that Korolev associates with shock. Not calm, but disconnected. The steadiness of a mind that has stepped back from what it is experiencing to observe from a safer distance. He points toward the cliff face ahead. At first, she sees only rock. Dark basalt, layered and fractured by eons of thermal cycling. The cliff, rising 40 meters above the basin floor. Then she sees what Lindquist sees. A door. It is set into the cliff face at ground level, rectangular, 3 meters tall, 2 meters wide. The edges are precise, not carved roughly, not blasted, but cut with tolerances that she associates with machine tools. The corners sharp, the surfaces smooth. The material of the door itself is not basalt, it is something dark and metallic. The surface unmarked, absorbing the weak Martian sunlight without reflection. It is not natural. It is not human. 53 minutes of oxygen, Okafor says. His voice has the quality of a man reading his own death sentence. Korolev walks to the door. She places her gloved hand on the surface. It is warm. On a planet where the surface temperature is minus 60 Celsius, the door is warm. It opens. Not swinging, not sliding, irising, the metallic surface contracting from the center outward in a spiral pattern, revealing a passage beyond that is lit, soft amber light from no visible source, illuminating walls of the same dark material, smooth and featureless, extending inward and downward at a shallow angle. Breathable atmosphere. Her suit sensors spike. Oxygen, nitrogen, trace carbon dioxide. A composition so close to Earth's that the readout seems like a malfunction. She checks it twice. It is real. There is air inside the structure, maintained at a temperature and pressure suitable for human respiration. Inside a sealed chamber carved into a Martian cliff. 49 minutes, Okafor says. They enter. There is no discussion. 49 minutes of oxygen or a passage full of alien air. The math is not complicated. They enter, and the door irises shut behind them, and the passage descends. It descends for a long time. The walls remain featureless. The amber light remains constant. Their boot falls echo in ways that suggest the passage extends far beyond what they can see. And then the passage opens into a chamber, and the chamber is occupied. They stand in rows, dozens of them, motionless, upright, arranged in a grid pattern with precise spacing, 2 meters between each figure, the rows extending across the chamber and into the darkness beyond the amber light's reach. They're humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso, a head, bipedal, bilaterally symmetrical. From a distance, in low light, they could pass for human. They are not human. The proportions are wrong. The torsos are too long by a factor that Korolev's mind registers as deeply, viscerally incorrect. The distance between the ribcage and the hips extended by an additional 30 centimeters, giving the midsection an elongated quality that makes her stomach lurch. The arms are correspondingly longer, the hands hanging below the knees. The heads are too narrow, the cranial vault compressed laterally, the skull shape suggesting a brain organized around principles different from the bilateral symmetry of the human cerebrum. The eyes are large and forward-facing, predator's eyes, and they are open, and they are dark, and they are looking. Not at nothing, at them. Every figure in the grid, every dark eye fixed on the three humans standing at the entrance of the chamber with their dying oxygen reserves and their rising terror and their absolute fundamental inadequacy in the face of what they are seeing. The figures do not breathe. They do not blink. They stand with the stillness of machinery in standby, not dead, not alive, but waiting, suspended in a state between function and dormancy, and the chamber hums with the low vibration that Korolev feels in her fillings, in her sternum, in the fluid of her inner ear. There, Lindquist begins. The nearest figure raises its hand. The motion is fluid and instantaneous, from stillness to action with no transition, no acceleration, as if the intervening frames of motions have been deleted and only the start and end positions remain. The hand holds something, a device, small, dark, integrated into the palm as if grown there. It glows briefly, a pulse of light in a frequency that is neither red nor blue, but something else, something Korolev's visual cortex cannot categorize. The pulse hits Lindquist in the chest. He does not fall. He stops. His body locks, every muscle rigid, his arms at his sides, his visor still facing the figure that shot him, and then he drops, straight down, as if his skeleton has been switched off, and the sound of his body hitting the floor is the sound of a thing that is no longer alive. Korolev turns. Okafor turns. The door is closed. The passage is gone. The wall behind them is smooth and featureless, and the amber light is steady, and the figures are moving now. All of them. The entire grid. A synchronized activation that ripples through the ranks like wind through grass, and dozens of hands are rising, and dozens of devices are charging, and the hum in the chamber is building, and there is nowhere to go. Okafor's body drops beside her, rigid, then collapsed, like Lindquist. Same pulse, same silence. Korolev faces the grid. The nearest figure is 3 meters away, and its eyes hold no expression. Not malice, not curiosity, not mercy. And its hand is raised, and the device in its palm is glowing, and the last thought Dr. Anya Korolev has is not fear, but clarity. They have been here longer than us. They have been here first, and they do not share. The pulse finds her chest.